and I am, um, let's see, I'm not sure exactly what I'm doing as far as my phone because my laptop would not let me be great and use my laptop webcam for whatever reason. So let's see what it says. Alrighty, let's try this. There we go. Okay. So hopefully this works. I'm not sure exactly how long I will be on, but I just really wanted to just share a couple of things that were on my heart, a couple of things that since this entire process of this Bell's palsy, Ramsay Hunt syndrome situation has been going on, I've received a lot of comments, some emails, a lot of questions, and I figured it would be a great opportunity for me to get to talk to you and to, if you had any questions or if you were experiencing anything with your Bell's palsy or Ramsay Hunt syndrome or any sort of facial palsy, that you would be able to just kind of just chat back and forth. I love connecting with people. I'm not sure why I haven't done this earlier or sooner, but I wanted to hop on and share just some encouragement, some things that what this experience has been like. And I just wanted you to know that like this was a safe place because when I was looking all around for information when this first started happening, there was a lot that I could not find. That's like an oxymoron, right? There's a lot I couldn't find. But there was so much information and so many questions that I had because if you have experienced any sort of health issue, especially if it comes down to your nerves or something like that that's not typical, um, it's hard to find people around you literally to connect with and to just understand what this process is like and what you may be experiencing. So I wanted to hop on and just kind of, share stuff like that. And hi, Sarah Nicole. You have commented so many times, and I prayed for you. And just thank you so, so much for being here. But one of the things that I wanted to touch on was how unique your body is and how uniquely you have been made. And because of that, your timeline for any sort of healing in any area of your life is going to look vastly different than the next person. You're unique, your body's unique, the experiences that you have are unique, and then where you're starting from your health and your wellness journey is going to impact how quickly you heal, how well you heal, and then the mechanisms behind whatever it is that you're experiencing are also going to impact how you're going to heal, right? So you can see what's going on right now. I feel like I look more like myself, and that's a really really encouraging feeling, and it's really awesome. And one of the things that I've done throughout this whole process is literally just being thankful and grateful for any little bit of movement that I have, um, writing down any areas where, oh my goodness, this didn't work and now it's working. Last night, not last night, yesterday afternoon after church, I've done something I haven't done in a very long time, which was take a nap. My husband was watching the Masters, and I actually took a nap. And woke up, he said, "Your eye was closed all the way." And I was like, what? It was so, so exciting because I was like, oh my goodness, because I knocked out on the couch and I don't typically do that. And when I go to sleep, I wear some sort of like, I cover my eyes. I never sleep with my eyes uncovered because of this right eye wouldn't close all the way. And one of the things that I'm working on right now, and the ophthalmologist told me the last time I went back in March, he told me, if this eye doesn't close, we may have to do some sort of surgery. And I'm obviously praying that I don't have to take that route, but I'm grateful for doctors because we need our eyes, right? So keeping your eye moist and keeping your eye wet is super, super important, as well as a lot of other lifestyle things that I'll get into in just a moment and things that have helped me that hopefully can help you. And if you have any questions or if you're just curious about something, you can put it in the comments. I can read them. I'm not sure if there's a delay or not, but I'll do my best to read those and still kind of carry on with some of the things that I wanted to share. So one of the things that has been really really exciting is, though the right side of my face still looks really different, it looks different from this side. There are still, some things here that I'm just excited that anything is moving. And if you have experienced Ramsay Hunt syndrome or Bell's palsy or any sort of facial palsy, then you know that just any little bit of movement is super, super exciting. You're like, this is awesome because, you're used to looking at yourself and you're used to saying, oh my goodness, I don't look like myself anymore. And sometimes we can get focused just on that as opposed to focusing on the fact that you are healing and that healing does take time. So that's one of the things I want to hop on. I want to encourage you. Um, Healing takes time, and it's not something that we can force or we can rush because we didn't make our bodies and we cannot control every aspect of what happens in and to our bodies because we live in a world that's fallen, right? And things are not perfect here. But if you are like me, we serve and worship a perfect creator. And I believe that Jesus is the great physician and he can heal anything. And he does those things in his time. And whether I can completely use, this eye again and blink it and all of those other things, whether that happens or not, that does not change how good God is. And just because bad things happen or unexpected things happen, it does not take away how good God is. So I wanted to say that. But so this eye right here, I wanted to show you that it's closing all the way, and this is a very, very new development, which is super exciting. And I can taste a little bit more on this side of my tongue, but there's still a lot that I can't taste on this side, and then things that I taste really strongly. So um, I can taste bitter a lot on this side, and things that are really salty I can taste on this side. But some days that's kind of all over the place too, because my husband, you're putting salt on that, you know what I mean? So it just is one of those things. It's unique to me, and you may, be experiencing something that, the next person who isn't, who's experiencing what you're experiencing, as far as the diagnosis, may not be experiencing the exact same things. So they may not be experiencing. I've gone back and forth with some people that have said they can't, they've had no issues with their taste buds. They've had no issues with swallowing. They've had no issues with their eye at all. So everyone is unique and everyone's experience is unique as well. So yes, Sarah Nicole, praise God. I am healing and it's super, super exciting. And it's one of the things that I'm super passionate about, which is sharing just nutrition and sharing just how much nutrition plays a part in our bodies and plays a part in our stewardship and how we're able to steward in our lives. And if we're not taking care of this temple, then it's one of those things that we're not being good stewards overall. We're neglecting the things that God's given us, and that's from a physical standpoint, a spiritual standpoint, financial, all of the things, because I believe that God owns everything, which is the nature of and the whole premise of this channel, which is style and stewardship, lifestyle stewardship. How are we managing everything? And from just my vantage point of just nutrition and seeing how my family's health has been, just the way that my family has eaten over the years and the things that my family has done has been detrimental to their health. And that was something I wanted to change in my family. So not just, oh, let's manage our money well, which of course we should do and be good stewards over our finances, but we should absolutely be good stewards over everything that God has given us. And this is the vessel that God's given us to steward everything with. All of this, but some of the other, how we treat the body, it's not, our body is not more important or less important depending on what we may be experiencing in our health. You are still, I say this all the time, your life matters and what you do with it matters. And I truly believe that. Just because you may be, I can't say just because, in spite of what you may be experiencing in your body and in your health or in your life, it does not negate your value and it does not negate your worth. or you know what I mean? So I think that when we are faced with something like this and we're faced with something that we just weren't expecting, a lot of times we can get so focused on, I want to heal, or I want to be better, or I want to feel normal again, or all of those things. But we can't neglect to one, we can't neglect to thank God in the midst of it. And we can't think that our life and our value is based on the thing that we're experiencing in our body or in our health. So that's one of the things that I wanted to share. Let's see. I'm not exactly sure. I had like a whole screen that I wanted to share, but since I had to go on my phone, that's not exactly happening. But some of the other things that I did want to share was when it comes to nutrition, I did a video on, I believe it was called inflammation or something of that nature. When this live goes off, I'll post it underneath the video. But I was sharing all the things that cause inflammation in the body. And the thing about Ramsay Hunt or Bell's palsy, the inflammation that happens on the impacted or affected side is something that when you go to the doctor and they start, the whole process of the diagnosis, and they give you some things to begin with. What I was given to begin with was, I think it was like 14 days of prednisone, which is a steroid. I was also given an antiviral. And before that, because this all started with a throat ache and then an ear infection, I was given an antibiotic. So in taking all of those things, the reason why they're giving you corticosteroids, even but the fact that they're giving you the steroids is to lessen, to mitigate the inflammation and to help your body do that, because the body sends out an inflammatory response whenever it's impacted by a virus or a bacteria. It's a natural part of your immune system, and it's a great thing. But if inflammation is chronic and it lasts a really, really long time, what happens is it can cause more damage. So if you're like me with your Bell's palsy or your Ramsay Hunt, and you experience pain, was one of the first things that happened with you, where you went to the emergency room, where you went to the doctor, and you were wondering what the heck is going on, or maybe your face went limp and you thought that you were having a stroke or something of that nature. One of the things that they're doing is they're trying to mitigate and lessen that inflammation so that it doesn't cause excess damage. And the more inflammation you have, the more pain you're also going to have, because your inflammatory signals are actually sending pain signals to tell you something's wrong in a specific area of your body. So working on inflammation on a dietary and a nutrition standpoint is so, so important. And that is one of the things that I did. You can go back and look at that video. It may have also been listed as a podcast. And if you're eating things that are super, super inflammatory to your body, you're not going to help your body to heal. I'm not saying it won't heal or anything like that, but it may dampen your body's ability to mitigate the inflammation, and which kind of is a downstream effect of helping your body to actually heal. So what are some things that cause a lot of inflammation? One of the things that causes a ton of inflammation is excess sugar. But it's not just excess sugar, it's excess carbohydrates, because carbohydrates literally turn into what? They turn into glucose, they turn into sugar in the blood. And what happens is, if we have any other underlying conditions, or if we're making our body have to work harder to lower inflammation, when our body's all experiencing so much from Ramsay Hunt or from Bell's palsy, what happens is we're making it harder on our body to heal. And we're also encouraging more inflammatory signals to be sent out, which then turns into more pain. So if you are someone who's experiencing a lot of pain still, this is medical advice, of course, to speak to your doctor, speak to your dietitian, speak to any of the medical professionals that are helping your healing process and your healing journey. But when it comes to diet and when it comes to lifestyle, it's the things that we are doing most often, and it's the things that we are doing every single day that are going to have the greatest impact on our health and our wellness, whether we're going through Ramsay Hunt and Bell's palsy, or we're just going through any other issue in our body, whether it's an autoimmune condition, and that's all one of the areas that we want to really watch out for inflammation. And this is what I wanted to say about diet. Just as I said before, you're unique, and what impacts you is unique, and what impacts the next person is going to be unique. Health is not a one size fits all, because everyone's body is different. The three of us in my household, my son and my husband and myself, we all have varying degrees of food sensitivities, intolerances, and some other health things that the next person doesn't have. So, someone in my family has, I've talked about this before. I know my husband wouldn't mind me saying this, but my husband has a lot of gut health issues. So we've done a lot of work with him, and I have a ton of, allergies and a ton of food intolerances and things like histamine intolerance. And because of that, there's certain things that are healthy, right, quote unquote, to the next person, but they're not healthy for me. So that's one of the things that I wanted to also is like getting close to and learning your body and work to what, so that you can work what doesn't work for you is key. You can go on here and you can try any diet in the world, but if it's not a diet that is specifically supportive to your unique body, it's not actually quote unquote healthy, right? So I think it's really important to find whatever the you diet is. And that's one of the things that I help people with anyways. I help people to really see what the root cause of their situations are in their health and in their body, and then to approach that from a lifestyle standpoint, seeing whatever gaps may be in nutrition, so that the body is, so we're just sure that the body's getting what it needs to do to need, so it can do what God created it to do. So if you're wondering, like, how do I help myself heal, how do I help my body do what God created it to do anyways, it's to really support the foundations of your health and your wellness, and it's to put that in context. So what it looks like for you, again, maybe it's different for what it looks like for me. Different seasons and stages of life are also going to impact that. There are some things that are really important when it comes to inflammation, when it comes to nerve health, and all of those things. Believe it or not, gut health is a huge part of how our body is responding to inflammation, and the areas of our body that are being helped or hurt by the things that we're taking in. So it's really, really vital that we're focusing on our gut health, that we're focusing on, are we digesting things? Is our body breaking down and using, Sarah, one healthy habit at a time, not to overwhelm your body? Absolutely. So for some people, it may just be something simple like this week, let's lower the sugar. You know what I mean? Let's cut it in half, what we would typically have. And then let's support support what the body's not getting, right? So it's I think people can have a very deleter's attitude when it comes to health and wellness and their nutrition, and they can say, I'm just going to cut out all these things or all those things. And that can be extremely helpful for a time, especially if you're in a fair. But if you're just taking things out and you're not really focused on what your body's actually getting, we can miss the forest for the trees. So mitigating inflammation, super, super important. And I love your comment about not overwhelming the body. So when we go and we get medication for something, though that medication is helping and you should take it, don't ever hear me say don't take your medication, take your medication. But we're telling the body to do something, and we're putting something into the body so that we can get a specific outcome. Maybe it's lowering a symptom, or lowering our symptom burden, so we're not so overwhelmed with how we're feeling, and we can kind of go about our day to day. That's super important. But the body is very, very smart. And whenever we're putting something into the body to cause it to have a reaction or to lower our symptom burden, sometimes those very same things can be taking things from the body. What I mean by that is antibiotics. They are amazing and I'm thankful for them. However, every time we're taking an antibiotic, we're also not just killing the bad bacteria, but we're also killing the good gut bacteria. And our guts are crucial when it comes to our overall health and wellness. And this is something that has been documented in so many. Good morning, first last. How are you? Hey. I was just hopping on, and I wanted to just share some just encouragement, some things that I've been experiencing. If you're just hopping on right now, so cool to see some of my YouTube friends in here. But if we're not looking at our health and our wellness as a whole holistically, and we're only, just trying to impact a symptom or whatever, and we're your body is still, there's still certain things that your body needs to do. Our body still needs to get in information from the food that we're taking in to help our body do what it needs to do. And when we're taking things like antibiotics, destroying our good gut bacteria also. So what's the game plan for that? Are we taking something else to help repopulate that good gut bacteria so that it can do things like help our body? 80% of serotonin, our feel good chemical, our neurochemical, is made in our gut. And if we're just going in and we're just a huge swath of our good gut bacteria gets wiped out whenever we're doing that. So this is kind of the point that I'm making. There is kind of a trade-off. So if we're taking a medication, and always take your medications, but if we're taking a medication to mitigate some sort of symptom that we may be having, it doesn't mean that it's only doing that. It's also doing some other things. So it may be, like I said, destroying your good gut bacteria. Sometimes the things that we're taking are actually stripping our body of nutrients. And a lot of people do not talk about this, especially if you're someone who is consistently taking something, which if you've been prescribed that, continue to take that. But what about what it's taking, what it's depleting from the body? Are we getting that back in through our diet? Are we getting that back in through our nutrition so that our body can perform and do the things that it needs to do, like having a good inflammatory process or like healing? And I look at this in a few different ways. It's like, we can take our healing and the medication that we have taken, all of those things, as a season. And then once we're done with that, what does our season look like going forward? Life season are we in now? Meaning, what's going to be our approach? So we've taken the medication that we're supposed to take. In my case, it was the prednisone, it was the antivirals, it was the um, antibiotic. And for a time, I was taking like half of one of the ibuprofens. I'm going to say it was like ibuprofen 500 or something like that for pain, which it came, but it never really took it away because nerve pain is on a different level. But one of the things that I started to do was, how can I help my bodies? Yes, healing is such a complex journey, absolutely. And it's something that we can't rush and we can't force, but we can support. And that's one of the reasons why I hopped on today. We can definitely support that by the foods that we're eating and by our lifestyle. There's certain areas of stress that we can't do much about, but we can help our body to heal, and we can help our body to get into a place of just relaxing so that I can heal. Sarah Nicole, from someone with MS. Oh my gosh. Sorry if I hit the mic. Pain is definitely an entire different story. Yeah, nerve pain. Wow. I have someone who has who had his brachial plexus severed and deals with constant nerve pain, and which literally his arm was detached from his spinal cord internally. He was in a really bad accident. And my mom, she has degenerating discs in her neck, and she has scoliosis, and she's had 2 back surgeries so far. And all she deals with is nerve pain. And she also has other health conditions, which were the catalyst for me becoming a nutritionist, because I saw that the people around me were consuming certain things. And I saw kind of, that saying is like, if you want what other people have, do what they're doing. And I saw that like, oh, okay, if this is what their health outcome looks like, I am going to do something completely different. I'm going to eat differently. For me and my household, we eat differently than anyone else in our families on both sides, on my husband's side as well as on my side. And one of the reasons is because we saw like, hey, they're not in good health. And that's not something, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying bad health is something that you've brought on yourself in every circumstance. We live in a fallen world. We know that that's not true, but there are certain things that we can do to impact our health and our wellness that are in our control, that are going to negatively impact our health, period. So if I eat the things that I would like to eat all the time, then I'm, that's it's not going to be conducive to my health and it's not going to be great. But when it comes to any sort of nerve pain, what all the clinical information that I read and all of the articles that I read, there has been so much information that supports um, helping your body with those inflammatory processes and with your nerves and your nervous system and your nerve pain and all of those things through things like your diet, through your gut health and the microbiota that are active and not active. Um, Things like how much sugar we're taking in and how that's impacting our body's ability to heal, as well as the inflammatory processes and the pain signals that we're receiving from having too many things like excess refined carbohydrates or just excess carbs in general for a lot of people. And really, in order to support our body, there are a lot of things that we're not getting a lot of because of our Western diet for the most part. And one of those things being omega-3 fatty acids. And there are some ways that I love to get that in. I've shared that before, but I'll share it here. Also, chia seeds can be a really great way to soak, of course, and you kind of want to pace yourself with it if you're someone who doesn't get a ton of fiber and you want to make sure that your body is getting those omega-3 fatty acids. Chia seeds are a great way to do that. One of the other things that I took right after I was done with prednisone and the antivirals and all those other things, I started in like my phase one of helping my body to heal and supporting the foundations of my health through my nutrition and through supplementation. So one of the things that's super, super important for all of us is to make sure that if you're not eating like what do you call it, omega-3 fatty acids, if you're not eating like fatty fish that's wild caught, then your body is not getting this anywhere else in your diet unless you're eating things like chia seeds and things like that. When you initially changed your diet, did your entire household change too? I have a question before I can answer that. Do you mean when I first started my nutrition journey, or do you mean with everything with the Bell's palsy and Ramsay Hunt syndrome? So I'll look for that in a second. You can pop that in there. Um, but I guess I can, okay, first. Okay. Initially, since I do all the cooking in my household, which is funny, they kind of Oh, became gluten-free and dairy-free. Oh, okay. So I can actually I'll share that. I'm not sure if I've ever shared that on my channel before, but when I first went gluten-free and dairy-free, no, my entire family wasn't on board. Um, the reason why I started dairy-free, I started that my son just turned 9. I started that when my son was about 3 months old because I always had issues with dairy. Like it would give me, I had horrible cystic acne, but I didn't make that connection younger. And after I had my son, I nursed him exclusively. And every time I would have dairy, he would, I hope this is not TMI, but he would projectile vomit and he couldn't keep my milk down. And it was one of those things that I was certain, even before I had a child, I wanted to nurse. It was something I was really, really passionate about. I know some people can't do it for whatever reason, but it was something I really, really, really desired to do. And I took him to the doctor, and he's 3 months old, and they're putting my son on medication. And mind you, it was so hard to even get him to keep that down. I'd have to put it against his cheek and use a dropper and all of that. And he just, for whatever reason, I feel like he got even worse after I introduced the medication. So back to the doctor, as most new parents do, right? You probably go to the doctor a lot more than someone who's seasoned and has a couple of children. So when I went back to the doctor, I told them, hey, I've been researching. And I've noticed a connection with me having, at that time, it was just having half and half in my coffee and having cheese on my eggs in the morning. And because I was so excited to have coffee again, because I didn't have it sorry about that. I didn't have it my entire pregnancy. So I was like, okay, let me see if this is, I was drinking a good bit of coffee and I was drinking a good bit of creamer in there. And I approached his pediatrician and I said, is that something that may help where he can get off this medication? And she said, you should try that. So what I did was I cut it out, and within 2 days, he didn't need the medication anymore. And I told my husband, I was like, I'm just going to go dairy free because it seems to really be impacting our son. And then he said, and I know that this isn't everyone's scenario, but he said, if it's going to make it easier on you, I'll do dairy free also. So that's when I started bringing in things like coconut milk and almond milk. And I was making my own almond milk. I had my nut milk bag and my filtered water. And I was making all that with it was the reason why I bought my high powered blender, like, my goodness, years and years ago. So that is why we started the dairy free. Then the gluten free ended up being something that I started having a lot of issues with because we were vegan for 2 years. And I made seitan or seitan, however you say that. I was making that like crazy. We were eating Morningstar Farms things. We were eating a ton of soy, and we were also eating a ton of gluten. I ate more gluten in my life. I felt like I ate enough gluten for a lifetime. So to answer your question, everyone wasn't on board. I wanted to give you the context of why we went dairy free to begin with. And then gluten free was something that it kind of just evolved into after we reintroduced meat back into our diets after 2 years of being vegan, which I believe really, really jacked up our guts and really caused a lot of issues. A lot of issues came from us being vegan, believe it or not. Maybe it helped someone else be healthy, but for us, it did not. And we weren't eating a bunch of junk to begin with. We started with very, very plant-based and all of that. So let me know if that kind of answers that question or not, first last. But the other thing that I would share is we started, my husband started to really have some other health issues, and we're fairly young. So I was like, what is going on? And we eat what we thought was a healthy diet. And he started having a lot, a lot of issues with his gut, which we believe, again, Sarah Nicole, yes, similar stories, yes, with going vegan, and all of these issues kind of came to a head. And I said to him, let's approach this through our diet. Since I believe our diet got us into this issue, let's kind of approach this from that angle as well, from our nutrition. And I cut out all grains. So it wasn't just gluten free. I was actually grain free for a couple years also. So I've always had the mentality that our health can be greatly impacted by what we're eating, because we're eating more than we're doing anything else. So we're eating and sleeping and drinking, right? Like hydrating more than anything else is part of everyone's lifestyle. We all have to eat. And I thought, well, how can we impact our health through this? So I did a bunch of research, and then I just did some trial and error things. And then we actually went grain free. We didn't start working grains back in until a couple years ago, actually. And then we tried to do einkorn, which is an ancient wheat. And we found that we could do it here and there, but it just was not working for us. I recently had an allergy test done, well, not recently, last summer, and one of my allergens is wheat. And it was something that I also cut out for my histamine intolerance because it just helped so much to not have it at all. And I'm not saying I'll never have it again, but there's no nutritional benefit to having gluten. So it's not a necessary nutrient. Like, gluten is a protein that's found in wheat. So it's not a necessary nutrient. It's not like a B vitamin or something like that. I'm currently removing all grains. It's tough with being gluten-free. Rice is in so many gluten-free things. Oh my goodness. Yes. Grain-free It's actually something that we started again today because we have just been going just ham on the grains. And we noticed a huge, huge difference in my husband told me specifically, my husband works out a lot, and he told me specifically, he's like, whenever I love the option of being able to have them, but whenever we cut them out, I notice that my joint inflammation goes down significantly. He sleeps better and deeper at night. And, if we want a burger or something like that, here's the thing. I'm going to put that on a bun. I'm going to make like a gluten-free bun or some of that canyon bread or whatever. Excuse me, allergies. But can grains cause joint inflammation? Yes. Yes. Yes, it absolutely can. Because so inflammation is an interesting thing because we can both have inflammation, but that the actual inflammation can show up in different areas of the body. So for some people, it's going to affect your joints. For some people, it may affect your skin. For other people, it may affect your sleep and your nervous system regulation, where it can actually cause anxiety for some people. My husband, when we cut out grains for his anxiety, I'm always of the mindset of take something out, try to get things healed, and then try to bring things back in once we know what the root cause is. Sometimes we don't always know what the root cause is, and it takes some digging and it takes some time. But for him in particular, he notices, grains specifically. Quinoa, not as much, which it's a pseudo grain, it's actually a seed. So he can actually have a little bit more quinoa than he can rice. And then when we're looking at quinoa and rice as an example, rice is a much starchier, higher in sugar, and sugar can cause inflammation. So that's when it takes some parsing apart and getting really granular with the individual, because sometimes it's the starchiness and the sugars that are causing inflammation, because it might be tied to something like your insulin, which is a hormone, which is tied to every other hormone in your body, which can then impact your body's inflammatory process. I hope that that's helpful. I'm gluten-free, dairy-free because of allergies. I understand. 2 weeks ago, Wednesday, I went caffeine-free. These things are hard to cut out, but the difference is in how I feel is amazing. Yes. Oh my goodness. I cut out when I first started my histamine intolerance journey. One of the first things that I cut out was caffeine. And that's because, and you may have seen a short on this video, I'm sorry, on this channel, Sarah, maybe not, but I shared, I think one of my first YouTube shorts is me sharing that I had to switch to a mold-free coffee. So sometimes inflammation can be caused by the product itself. So the actual ingredient may cause inflammation for you, or it could be the way that that ingredient was handled or processed. So the other issue with grains, excuse me, I did take nettle this morning, but we ate grains this weekend, which usually drives my histamine kind of crazy. So if we're looking at your entire diet and we're saying, okay, this bothers me or that bothers me. The other thing that's super, super important to kind of parse out is it the ingredient that's bothering me, or is it how the ingredient was processed? And certain things are inherently more prone to things like mold and mildew, and things like if you have mold on something, you are typically going to be exposed to mycotoxins. And mycotoxins can do a whole lot of just damage to the gut lining, and it can which can cause a whole lot of issues throughout the entire body due to things like intestinal permeability, which is leaky gut, and literally things that are in your food start to get into your blood, and then it circulates systemically over your entire body, which then can cause inflammation, because anything that's in your body that's not supposed to be there, the body is smart and it wants to get rid of it. So it's going to start tagging things with antibodies. So the next time you have that thing, your body goes into a tailspin and typically will have a ton of inflammation because it's literally your immune system has been told, hey guys, gear up, something's in our body and we got to get rid of it. And that's going to cause that whole cascade and downstream effect in the body, and it can affect so many things. Chronic disease stem from poor gut health. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. The more I research about the gut and the more I learn about the gut, the more I think that all of the damage that we have done, this is why I have yet to read an article that doesn't point back to the gut when it comes to any sort of autoimmune condition, which is why most people that have an autoimmune condition, which is an inflammatory condition in and of itself, just depending on which part of the body that it's attacking, there's some sort of correlation or underlying gut issue. They're doing so much study and research now on just the rates of different conditions that we see in our children and in our society as a whole that have been caused by gut health issues. And you're totally right. I had mold testing and tested high positive for numerous types that open our eyes to mold mycotoxins in coffee. Yes, oh my goodness. That is why I always share that bulletproof brand. It's not the only one that's mold free. There are other ones that are tested for mold. Purity Coffee is one. I've had it, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I like a really, really strong brew, like almost espresso like. So it was one of the ones. It's low acid is another one. They'll say low acid. Kicking Horse Coffee. Do you like it? Do you like the Kicking Horse Coffee? I've never tried that one. I've heard of it. But it's amazing how much there's certain things that are just prone to mold. Peanuts, and when we see people that have a ton of allergies, peanut allergies and things like that, well, peanuts are typically something that are prone to mold. And then we can get into a whole conversation about candida overgrowth and yeast and how that can show up as allergic reactions. There's so many layers to this. My husband loves it. My adult son prefers bulletproof. Yeah, I'm with your adult son on that. I love bulletproof. The flavor to me is just really, really good. But I'll have to try the Kicking Horse. I feel like bulletproof, like I would love for them to just send me coffee because I have it on subscribe and save on Amazon and we get several bags. But I don't want this to run too long. I just thought that it would be such a great opportunity to just talk with you because I see your comments, I read your comments, I respond to them. But I just thought in real time it would be really cool to get to just chat with you. And if you have any questions or any topics that you just want to talk about, or you can put those in the comments either before we get off the live. I can try to answer some or afterwards. Thanks so much, First Last. And if you want to see more of these, the summer, the days are longer, so I get up a lot earlier, and school is coming to a close, which is great. So I'll have a bit more opportunity where I can hop on alive. So if you want to see these again, just let me know by liking the video and commenting if you haven't already. And if you're watching the replay, you can like or comment. But I just wanted to say again, for anyone reading this, you're struggling with your health, never lose faith. I had to read that one because I totally agree with Sarah. And just, it's amazing to me when I posted the video, which I wasn't initially going to do. And my goodness, when you're faced with something and you're told that it's rare, and then you see how many people are also experiencing it, it's like, wow, this may be rare, but this is something that, the more that we talk about it, I feel like the more maybe research can go into it, or just people that are looking to not feel alone. And, when your face isn't working right, or, you can't blink or whatever the case may be, and you feel alone in whatever you're going through, and you can hop online and say, oh my goodness, well, this person
knows what this experience is like. And that is such an awesome thing. And I love that. And I think that it's a God thing where He's given us the ability to connect. And like anything else, we can use it for something that's great, or we can use it for something that's not so great. And I hope that this, just the whole channel and everything that I do is something that just, one, it points people to Jesus, right? Because He's the reason why I do anything, and stewarding everything that He's given me and everything that He's given you, in spite of, what's going on in your body. My husband said this to me, and I definitely want to share it here. I may have shared this before, but I'll never forget it. I was having a really tough time with something, and he prayed something that I'll never forget. And it's been one of the most amazing reminders. And he said, God is not surprised. Like, the one who holds everything together and made everything is not surprised or ignoring anything that you're going through. And He is with you, and He will never forsake you. He will never leave you. And everything that we've ever faced, He has faced. We have not a high priest that's not impacted by the things that we're impacted by, right? He's so good to us. And it's for people who want hope. Sometimes people put their hope in healing instead of putting their hope in the healer. And sometimes when I pray for people that leave comments on here, it's kind of the ones that I see don't necessarily believe what I believe. Free country, and God's given us free will to believe whatever it is that we choose to. But my prayer is always that this will point whoever's needing this to ultimate hope. And that hope is not in our circumstance. That hope, we can hope for healing, but our hope is not in healing. It's in the healer. So I just wanted to just encourage you with that, remind you of that. I am not someone who is not impacted by having health issues or having allergies and food sensitivities and going out and just wanting to eat what everybody else is eating and knowing if I do that, I'm going to pay for it. Literally and physically, I'm going to pay for it. But if you have any questions as far as what you would like to see, if I do another live, I could probably do some sort of series. I was thinking recently of just doing a series on specific things that are a little more complicated, things like gut health, or sharing some more about the histamine intolerance journey. But I did want to share this for those that are going through any health challenge right now, especially if it's an inflammatory one, and any sort of like Bell's palsy or facial palsy or Ramsay-Hunt syndrome, and to also share an update. I am still not forcing my body to heal. I am taking things slowly. And one thing that I've been taking very, very seriously and doing intentionally is resting. And I think rest, I'm sorry if that was loud. I apologize. The tech will be better on the next one, hopefully. But take your time. Please take your time with your healing. Don't compare it to anybody else's healing. Your healing is going to take the time that it's going to. The more that you can support your health and your wellness and your foundations, the better. And if you are someone who wants to work with someone on your health and your wellness journey and on your nutrition, I am a certified holistic nutritionist. I typically have everything linked in the description, and you can apply. I do an application process now just to make sure that we're aligned before we ever get on the phone, because I do not waste anyone's time. And I want to give as much value and as much information, even on these lives, as possible. But if you are someone who wants to work one-on-one, be sure to click the link, and I would love to see if we're a good fit and if you want to go further in your health and your wellness. And I specifically, I should say that my specialty is working with people who have food intolerances and allergies, and still supporting your body in spite of all of those things, and finding those gaps that may be right there, but you just can't see them. I recently got some blood work done, and it is really, really amazing how much our bodies can tell us. So if you have experienced Ramsay-Hunt or anything, regular blood work is super, super important. I just wanted to throw that in there real quick, because it really can give you information and data on what your body might be requiring. That is something that I also help people with looking at their labs. I don't interpret them, but I can look from a holistic standpoint in the things that we speak about to see where the gaps in your nutrition and lifestyle may be. I'd love to see a video on tips on handling being strict on an allergy safe diet. Yes, I understand it. I definitely understand that. And handling temptation, like not sneaking a bite of pizza. Oh, my goodness. I made pizza this weekend, so I definitely understand what you're saying. It is a weakness for me, that, and I think like nachos. And I love, love, love Indian food and Jamaican food and all that has spices in it that don't necessarily work for me. So I can try to do a video on that because sometimes we just need all the encouragement that we can get when we have certain things that we have to be strict about. But I would love to know first, last, how are you on an elimination? I'm kind of assuming that you might be on an elimination diet. Yeah, but I would love to do this again and just talk with you guys and just get to know you better and help and provide whatever resources that I could point you to or personal guidance. Again, if you're looking for personal guidance, I would love to see if we're a good fit. Diet, yes, we have done different types. So you're speaking my language, and that's basically what okay, but I'm gonna go ahead and hop off. I so enjoyed getting to chat with you, and I appreciate all of the interaction, the comments, because it helps me to not feel like I'm talking to myself since you're not in the room. All right, if you have any other like questions or comments you want to drop real quick, I can take a look at that. Sarah, you said you're on an elimination diet. Oh, I hope you have a blessed week too. I hope you all do. Well, until next time, your life matters. What you do with it matters. So what will you steward well?